Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow South Africans, they say the truth will set you free, but apparently some of our own people prefer to keep you in chains. Chains made of lies, half-truths, and WhatsApp forwards that have been copy-pasted more times than a student's homework assignment. We're here today to talk about something that's been eating at our community like load shedding eats at our patients. The spreading of dangerous misinformation about the refugee programs, particularly those in the United States of the white South Africans. And let me tell you, some of these stories are wilder than a taxi driver's explanation for why he's taken the scenic route through 3 provinces to get you 2 blocks down the road. Picture this. Someone else's cousin's friend's neighbor's domestic worker apparently knows someone who went to America as a refugee and is now living under a bridge, eating breadcrumbs, and being chased by wild buffalo through the streets of New York and maybe the Oregon Trail. Never mind that buffalo don't roam Manhattan, unless you count the tourists at Times Square. These stories spread faster than gossip at a church braai. That's what I'm trying to say. But here's the thing that really gets my goat. And I'm not talking about the one I'm planning to slaughter for Heritage Day. It's not just random people spreading these tales. We've got some characters in our community who seem to have made their full-time job painting America's refugee programs as some sort of medieval torture chamber where South Africans go to suffer. These modern-day town criers are out here acting like they've got a PhD in international refugee law from the University of Facebook with a minor in drastic storytelling from the WhatsApp Institute of Advanced Nonsense. Let's set the record straight, shall we? Even though I have dry cough, the United States Refugee Resettlement Program is not perfect. It was for whites and racial minorities. No system is. But it's certainly not the horror story that's being peddled by our local merchants of misery. Refugees in America receive comprehensive support, actually, including housing assistance, medical care, job placement services, English language training, and community support networks because they're refugees. They're not thrown into the wolves. They're given tools to rebuild their lives. If they were going to be thrown to the wolves, they weren't going to be there in the first place. Compare that to the fairy tale of being spun by some of our fiction writers who claim refugees are left to fend for themselves in abandoned warehouses while fighting off urban wildfire, like some of these crazy stories that are trending on TikTok. The US has resettled millions of refugees over decades with established systems, legal protections, and support networks. But according to our own homegrown purveyors of panic, apparently the moment a South African sets foot on American soil, they are immediately transformed into a character from a Charles Dickens novel, poor, hungry, and probably being chased by someone named Scrooge or something. Now, you might wonder, why would fellow South Africans deliberately spread such harmful misinformation? Well, I want you to grab your detective hat because this mystery has more layers than my grandmother's 7-color Sunday cake. Some of these information terrorists, and yes, I'm calling them that because terrorizing people with lies is exactly what they're doing, seem to have their own agendas. Maybe they're bitter because their own applications didn't work out. Maybe they're jealous of others' opportunities. Maybe they just enjoy watching the world burn while they warm their hands over the flames of chaos they've created. Or maybe they are black supremacists. Others might be operating under the delusion that they're protecting people. Oh, I'm just warning them about the dangers, they say. Okay, like some self-appointed guardian angel with a broken moral compass and a subscription to conspiracy theories monthly. But here's what's really happening though. Watch this. They are not protecting anyone. These scammers are robbing people of opportunities, filling them with unnecessary fear, and potentially keeping families separated who could otherwise be reunited in safety. While our local fiction writers are busy crafting their next bestseller, 50 Shades of Refugee Misery, real people are suffering from their creative writing exercises. Families who could benefit from legitimate refugee programs are now scared to apply because of these TikTokers. People who have genuine claims for protection are second-guessing themselves because someone's uncle's gardener, who is also an Afrikaner, who supposedly heard from a taxi driver that America is basically a post-apocalyptic wasteland where refugees are used as human scarecrows. Meanwhile, the rumor mongers are sitting there pretty, probably updating their Facebook status. Just saved another family from certain doom in America. You're welcome, South Africa, because they have nothing else to do with their lives. Please like and share if you think I'm a hero because I'm so desperate for your validation. Let me share some of the red flags that should make you more suspicious than a parent finding an empty cookie jar and chocolate on their child's face. Number 1 is the my friend's cousin source. You know this if the story always begins with someone who knows someone who heard from someone who also knew someone else. That is not a source. That is a game of telephone played by adults who should know better. The dramatic language overload as well. If the story sounds like it was written by someone who failed out of soap opera writing school, be skeptical. Ask questions. Real refugee experiences, while challenging, don't typically involve dramatic music and slow motion sequences. The lack of specifics too. Vague stories about terrible conditions and unsafe situations without any concrete details are about as reliable as a weather forecast in Cape Town, which is to say, completely useless because Cape Town's weather is so cool and unpredictable. Emotional manipulation. If it's designed to make you feel panic, fear, or outrage rather than provide factual information or make you feel like you're being scolded at by Greta Thunberg, then that needs to make you think, even if you're thinking of your own twisted version of the reality they're trying to feed you. What makes this particularly painful, ladies and gentlemen, is that it's not outsiders spreading these lies about us, it's our own people. We are supposed to lift each other up, not tear each other down with fabricated horror stories. This is betrayal of the worst kind. When someone who shares your background, your struggles, your hopes for a better future, decides to use that shared experience to sell out, get a quick buck, to manipulate and mislead you, that's not just dishonesty, that is betrayal with a capital B, and a side of pure selfishness. These individuals are taking advantage of the trust that exists within our communities. They know we are more likely to believe information coming from one of our own, and they're exploiting that trust like a politician exploits campaign promises enthusiastically and without shame. So, the damage these lies cause doesn't stop with the immediate victim. Like a stone thrown through a pond, the ripples spread far and wide. You see, children remain separated from parents who could provide them with safety and opportunities. Families stay in dangerous situations because they've been convinced that seeking help through legitimate channels like the US Embassy will lead to even worse outcomes. Communities remain fractured when they could be healing and rebuilding. And perhaps most tragically, people lose hope. When you convince someone that all their opinions lead to misery, you're not just spreading misinformation, you are doing nothing but stealing their future. So what can we do about this epidemic of misinformation? How do we fight back against these merchants of misery and the peddlers of panic? 1. First, become a fact checker, not a fact forwarder. Before you share that shocking story about refugee conditions, just take 5 minutes to verify it, please. Check official sources, look for corroborating evidence, and then ask yourself, does this sound too dramatic, like it would be in a Charles Dickens book, or is it true? Second, challenge misinformation when you see it. Don't let false stories spread unchallenged in your family WhatsApp groups or community forums. That's how it starts. Be that person who asks, where did this information come from? Be the one who demands evidence. Third, amplify accurate information. Share stories from reputable sources, official refugee organizations, and verified accounts from people who have actually been through these processes. Fourth, support those who are sharing their real, actual legitimate experiences, not their imagined nightmares. Listen to actual refugees, not self-appointed experts whose credentials come from the University of pure speculation. You think I'm stupid when I ask for a refugee to reach out on this channel and say how things are going over there? But nonetheless, the truth has a funny way of being more powerful than lies, even when it's not exciting or dramatic. The real stories of refugees rebuilding their lives, while challenging, are also stories of resilience, hope, and human triumph. These stories don't make for sensational WhatsApp forwards, but they're real, they're honest, and they give people actual information to make informed decisions about their lives and their futures without clickbaiting anyone. We cannot allow misinformation to divide our community. We cannot let fearmongers and attention seekers poison the well of trust that should exist among us. We are South Africans. We've survived apartheid, load shedding, and even the Springboks losing to Japan in 2015, though we don't talk about that, right? I mean, we've won the World Cup the most. We can also certainly survive and outcome a few individuals who think spreading lies is an acceptable hobby. But survival isn't enough. We need to thrive. We need to support each other with truth, not tear each other down with fiction. I'm calling on every person watching this video and everyone who will hear this message and listen to become a guardian of truth in your communities, in our community. Don't be passive consumers of information. Be active defenders of facts. When someone shares a story that sounds suspicious, investigate. When someone spreads misinformation on what you may fear, or what you may fear is misinformation, correct them. When someone needs real information about refugee programs or any other important topic, help them find reliable sources. We need to create a community where truth is valued over sensationalism, where facts matter more than feelings, and where helping each other means providing accurate information, not frightening fairy tales. To those who have been spreading false information about refugee programs on TikTok, your 15 minutes of fame as amateur fearmongers are over, because thee has seen your lies. People are waking up to your games, and your audience is shrinking faster than the economy during a political scandal. To those who have been believing and sharing these stories without verification, it's time to become part of the solution. Check your sources, question dramatic claims, subscribe and listen to the word of thee, and remember that if something sounds too terrible to be true, then it probably isn't true. To those who are genuinely seeking information about refugee programs, do your research through official channels, consult with legitimate organizations, and don't let fearmongers make life-changing decisions for you. We stand at a crossroads. Down one path lies a community divided by misinformation, fear, and suspicion. Down the other lies a community united by truth, mutual support, and shared commitment to each other's well-being. The choice is ours. We can continue to let the merchants of misery control the narrative, or we can take back the power to tell our own stories, true stories, stories of hope, resilience, and the endless human capacity to build better lives even in the face of adversity. So let's choose truth, let's choose each other, and let's choose to build a community that lifts people up rather than tearing them down with lies. The future of our community depends on it. And frankly, after everything we've been through as South Africans, we deserve better than to be defeated by a bunch of amateur fiction writers with too much time on their hands and too little regard for the truth. Thank you, stay vigilant, and remember, the truth may not always be exciting, but it's better than a beautiful lie, and it's certainly always the thing worth speaking. Because in a world full of fake news and lies, be someone's reliable source of truth, like I am to you. And one more message to those trending on TikTok, spreading that misinformation like an infected fly that won't die from doom. Stop it. Get some help. This is the Sambit, and like always, I'll see you next time.